He's going to show up on your Apple Watch now that we dropped his name.
Yeah.
Because what if there's a war and all of our military personnel have to go and then your property's vacant? Everybody always says, oh, your poor dad, he must have had it so hard, all those girls. But no, he lived like a king. Or I was being told, like, you're out of vacation. Like, you cannot take that day off. Well, it's kind of a funny, sad story there because my dad was excited for me. The whole family was, because it's like, oh, okay, another dentist. It just opened my eyes to a whole new world. Like this, I've never seen such beauty like this. I've never seen people live life of such, like, it's so casual over there. It's so free. I had to tell my dad, like, I don't want to go to dental school. This sounds terrible to me. I don't want to be in school another 6 years. I had to break it to him that way after he sent me on that trip. And luckily, he was awesome about it. I got one of the low-level jobs because I'm, 21 at the time. I'm in a cubicle, and there's no windows, and it's fluorescent light. Then I studied this book, and I got this dumb certification that everybody who I interviewed with was like, why did you get this? I had this puny salary. I think, like in the pharma world, I think it was like $52K. I did that for 2 years, and then I got laid off because the company was unethical. They're the dirtiest creatures alive, okay? And then my husband, she's my biggest investment by far, but I need her. I can't, because I can't do it without her. No matter what we did, we even had not only was he managing our money, but we would seek also other counselors. Like, right. Okay, are we doing this correct? I just read a study just today saying that the average American has, it's 99% of their investment portfolio in stocks, bonds, and cash.
You could always bet on yourself, but putting your money with someone that has that track record and knows what they're doing and, has the team behind them as well. Probably seen a lot of the problems that can come up and know how to, avoid some of those obstacles.
There's a statistic out there that says 70 to 90% of a business owner's net worth is tied up in their actual company. 70 to 90%. Individual is sitting on a lot of cash, and they know that it's being eaten away at inflation, but they don't want to put it in the stock market because they see it as too risky. Then I'll simply walk them through the benefits of apartments and why we feel like we found a gold mine.
We're live, so welcome back to Success on the Rocks, episode number 4. Today I have Annette Hemmert with me. And she has a very interesting story she's going to share with everyone today. She started in pharmaceuticals and got into real estate investing about 2 years ago, and now owns 678 units, correct?
Yes. Well, we're closing on the last of the deals, but let's say yeah.
Amazing. So in that short of a time span, she's accomplished all that. So I'm excited to have her on. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Leo.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Oh, that's so good.
So Annette, so usually I like to try to start at the beginning and go in chronological order as much as I can. So I'd love to start off by asking you where you're from, a little bit about your upbringing, maybe what your parents did, anyone throughout your life that kind of inspired you and helped shape you be who you are today.
Yeah, no, great question. So I grew up in Corpus. So I'm a coastal gal, grew up on the beach. My dad is a dentist. And so he and my mother together built a dental practice based out of Corpus. They worked really hard because they built it from scratch. We're kind of on the outskirts, so a rural community, not in Corpus proper. So I'm one of 4. I have 4 sisters, so one of 5 girls, no brothers. And everybody always says, oh, your poor dad, he must have had it so hard, all those girls. But no, he lived like a king, okay? He lived like a king, and he had a lot of influence around town because when he built his practice, he was the only dentist in that area, and so he really became a pillar of the community. And like I said, he and my mom worked really hard and provided this wonderful life for us. We lived in a beautiful house. We had a beautiful garden. They took us on trips. And I never appreciated it, obviously, when I'm little. Like, that was my life. But as I grew older, I realized, okay, especially as I started entering the workforce and I was being told what your hours are. I was being told when you could take a break even. or I was being told, like, you're out of vacation, like, you cannot take that day off. Then it started to hit me like, okay, this isn't the life that I knew. This isn't the life my parents established for us. My dad was able to take off whenever he wanted. And so from an early age, I started thinking, okay, like, I can't do this 9 to 5 thing. This isn't for me. So, I started at USAA. I sold financial products back then. And so that's where learning about the stock market, learning about investing, learning about saving your money was all taught to me. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to roll with it. I need to save as much money so I can retire early. Like, that's what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking about starting a business like my parents did. I was thinking, okay, I just need to save my way to retirement. This is going to just be a piece of cake. And obviously, it's not that easy. So, yeah, I went a little bit past my childhood, but that's kind of how it went.
And you were a fellow Red Raider, right? You went to Texas Tech.
That's right.
Guns up. So what did you pursue in school? What did you study?
Yeah, I studied biology because I thought I was going to be a dentist like my daddy.
Yeah.
And so I did. I applied for dental school. I actually got into something called a post-bac program at Baylor. So it's basically where you go and you do 2 years of like a master's in biology or health or something like that. And then you go to dental school. So it would have been another 6 years at Baylor. And it's kind of a funny, sad story there because I got into that program and my dad was excited for me. The whole family was, because it's like, oh, okay, another dentist. So my graduation present from my parents after I graduated from high school was a trip to Europe with a friend. And it was just me. We went over there and we stayed with some of her family in Europe. And it just opened my eyes to a whole new world. Like this, I've never seen such beauty like this. I've never seen people live life of such, like, it's so casual over there. It's so free. Like everybody is just living their best life. And when I came back from that trip, I had to tell my dad, like, I don't want to go to dental school. This sounds terrible to me. I don't want to be in school another 6 years. Biology was hard. And I had to break it to him that way after he sent me on that trip. And luckily he was awesome about it. But I didn't go to dental school.
So when you got back from Europe, did you immediately go into USAA, or what was that first job? That was the first job out of college?
Like, well, I guess I'm moving to San Antonio and I'll take the first thing I can get. And with zero experience, that was it. So my sister was working at USAA at the time. I think she had something to do with that. She recommended me or something. And I got one of the low-level jobs because I'm 21 at the time, and I'm in a cubicle, and there's no windows, and it's fluorescent light. And I was just in a call center. That's basically what it was. I was doing outbound calls, selling financial products for USAA. So sales, that's the silver lining. That was my first introduction into sales. And cold calling and just talking with strangers and trying to build rapport and hopefully by the end of the conversation get them to buy something from you. But it's the opposite of my personality. I couldn't get out of there fast enough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure. That's a tough job to start out in, but I think that probably showed you a lot and taught you. Sales, which is crucial in almost any business you do or any career you pursue.
Yeah.
So how long were you with the company?
With USAA, 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Mm-hmm. What did you do after that?
So about 2 years in, I was about to pull my eyelashes out. It was horrible because I was so unfulfilled there. And I thought, okay, well, sales is fun. I like this, but I have a degree in science, biology and chemistry. And why not fuse the two? And so I started looking at medical device. I was like, they make a lot of money. I would get a company car. I'm out of an office. I'm working remote before it was cool. Mm-hmm. And I get to make my own schedule. So I started looking into medical device and pharmaceutical companies. And so I bought like this course. It was total sham, but I needed to put something on my resume. So I bought a course on like how to become a pharmaceutical rep, and I studied this book, and I got this dumb certification that everybody who I interviewed with was like, "Why did you get this?" I was like, "To show you I'm serious." And so I did all this, and I don't know how many companies I interviewed with pharma. Medical device, it's hard to get into. So pharma was easier. Maybe like 10 companies, and I landed with a company, and I sold fentanyl for about 2 years with them, but for like pain management,
Right.
cancer pain, not like street, not like recreational.
Yeah, hope not. Were you enjoying that? Were you finding success in that career?
So that was my first pharma gig, and it was like the wild, wild west. It was a startup pharmaceutical company, and to be 100% honest with you, it was not an ethical company either. But I didn't know what I was doing. There was no call plans. It was just like go out and find business wherever you can within these certain guardrails. There was no real compliance or anything. It was very cutthroat, and everybody that worked there was just like young and hungry and wanting to make the most of this uncapped commission as they could. Mm-hmm. So again, from a sales standpoint, it was a good stretch role for me because I had this puny salary. I think like in the pharma world, I think it was like $52K, which is not puny. That's a decent salary. But in the pharma world, that's extremely low. But then they entice you by saying, okay, it's uncapped bonus potential. And so, it was more cold calling. It was more, but it was also what I enjoyed. It was live conversations, whereas before, I was only on the phones. Mm-hmm. So these are now live conversations with physicians and doctors and pharmacists and, medical office providers. So it was a different kind of, I guess, training for me.
And how long were you doing that for?
I did that for 2 years, and then I got laid off because the company was unethical and they shut down. And then I landed with a bigger company, a much bigger company, and I have been with them for over a decade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're still doing that concurrently with the real estate?
I've got 1 foot in pharma, 1 foot in real estate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, mm-hmm. Impressive, because you're also full-time wife, full-time mother.
Full-time wife.
How are you? How do you balance all of it?
Well, you can't. I've had to learn how to outsource a lot, especially when it comes to the home front. So, even just as little as having groceries delivered. So I don't go to H-E-B anymore. That's a waste of my time. Mm-hmm. I don't clean my house anymore. I hired a cleaning lady because I can't. I have two. I don't know if you have boys. Do you have sons, boys? Okay, they're the dirtiest creatures alive. Okay, and then my husband. And so I can't keep up with that. So I hired a cleaning lady. I hired, what else did we outsource? It's groceries, cleaning. I hired an assistant to help me with the real estate side. So okay. I have somebody, we've expanded a little bit. So you can't do it all, right. Especially if you want to be a present mother and a present wife. You just can't. So finding ways to outsource, even when you think you can't afford it, it just becomes your normal, is all I can say about it. It just becomes like, okay, no, this is critical to how I live my life. I need to find a way, and your mind creates ways to create money, and that's now your new baseline. That's a new temperature that you've set. So, like with Sabrina, who is my assistant and head of investor relations, it's like she's my biggest investment by far, but I need her. I can't do it without her. There's too much.
Yeah. Delegating is super important. I mean, it allows you to focus on other, income producing activities, which is kind of what you should be focusing on, especially if you have certain milestones and goals you want to reach.
Yeah.
And there's only so many decisions I feel that you can make in a day, and if that, some of the stuff that's less important, or some things not less important, but some stuff that you can delegate out is cluttering up your mind with that.
Yeah.
Really hiring that out should be something to consider, I think.
For sure. Oh, meal prep. That's what I do.
Meal prep.
I don't cook.
Yeah,
So
that's another big one.
we have food delivered. That's it. So, I mean, that saves, we did the math one day. It's like saves a ton of time a week. It's like 15 hours a week that I could then put back into hanging out with my family or working on the company, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So you finally made the leap into real estate 2 years ago. What kind of prompted that decision? Was there something you saw that motivated you? Was it something that was always on the back burner and you were just waiting for the right time? Or, what motivated that?
Yeah, great question. So my husband's actually a financial advisor. He's been in the financial sector for many years now. And we were just heavy in the stock market is really what it was. And we just couldn't figure it out. And we were frustrated with the fact that no matter what we did, we even had like, not only was he managing our money, but we would seek also other counselors, like, okay, are we doing this correct? What else should we know? Like, there's so much that you don't have control over when it comes to Wall Street, So pandemic, for instance, recessions, tweets, elections, like on and on. And so there's a lot of human psychology that backs up the value of your stock portfolio. And so that was frustrating to me. So that's number one. The second thing was, again, having just had my second kid, I wanted more time with them. I want more time, and I want to be able, again, I've never been big on being told what to do or being told how much time I could have here or there. And I felt like I wasn't in control of my time. And so I knew at that point that we needed to start exploring passive income streams. We didn't know what to do, so we started just reading. We read every book that we could get our hands on it for passive real estate investing. Well, real estate is where ultimately our studying led us. So we read everything on passive real estate investing, like who are the big players currently doing it, who's super successful, can we learn from them, do they have a mastermind, what markets do we want to be in? And so we just knew that we had to do something different because what we were doing in terms of just putting all of our money in I think I just read a study just today saying that the average American has, it's 99% of their investment portfolio in stocks, bonds, and cash. And that's it. No alternative assets, just doing what we've been trained to do, which is just put money aside on autopilot into our 401ks and IRAs. And that's just risky to me. So when you study what wealthy people do, which is what I have done, you realize that it's not just one. You can't just do one asset class.
Right.
You have to do multiple income streams if you want to have the highest success for being financially free, which is, I think, what everybody should be aiming for.
And what ultimately was that first property you guys landed on and purchased?
So it was all passive first. We wanted to test we wanted to see, proof of concept. Mm-hmm. So when you study passive real estate investing, there's all sorts of different types of passive real estate investing you could do. You could do single family, you could do commercial office, industrial. You could invest in people's B&Bs. You can invest in multifamily or apartments. And so the best asset class that we saw in terms of commercial real estate, at least for us, in our opinion, was multifamily, because it's very hands-off. It makes sense to us. You get to buy all these leases and the money with the leases and get cash flow plus equity upside, tax benefits. It just met all of our criteria. And so we invested passively for a while with Grant Cardone.
Okay.
Yeah. So Part of our passive portfolio is in Florida with
Okay.
him.
What ultimately made you want to land in investing with him as a limited partner?
Track record. He has a perfect track record. We went to one of his conferences to actually like see, okay, is this guy legit? Is he different in person than he is based on, because we watched like all of his content,
Right.
which is a ton. He's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
He's going to show up on your Apple Watch now that we dropped his name.
Yeah.
And so we felt comfortable. Like, we were able to have a conversation with him. We were able to ask him questions. We like the assets that he buys are beautiful. And so we wanted to get into something really nice. And like he says, something that cash flows. So we buy for cash flow. And lo and behold, like, we invested with an old IRA. We converted it to a self-directed IRA, so we didn't have to pull from our personal liquidity. I think it was like $90,000 was our first investment. And and then it just started showing up like clockwork on a quarterly basis. So the passive income, I mean. So that's what we wanted to test out first.
So
We started there.
Has that investment been going well for you guys?
It has been going well, yeah. So I know a lot of people in the commercial real estate world, especially passive investors, have, maybe not had the best experience. So there's been capital calls, there's been issues with the interest rates. Thank God we haven't experienced any of that side yet. And I think that's the importance of choosing a sponsor or an operator or the person who's actually, if you're not familiar with commercial real estate, the person who's actually buying the deal. It's finding somebody with that perfect track record, who's vertically integrated. That's another thing we look for. So somebody who not only has the means to be able to purchase the property, but also has the team to go in and manage the property after it's purchased, so that everybody's aligned. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing that we look for, which he is. And then and then cash flow day one.
Did you look at other sponsors as well when you guys were considering who to invest with?
We did, yeah. We had some friends with Rod Khleif, so we looked at his deals. We looked at local, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have a network in San Antonio, which is where I live. And so we started just digging around, meeting with brokers, asking like, who are the big players locally? And we did meet with some local people as well, but we still just went back to him. Because you know what? He made it really easy.
Yeah.
He makes it really easy to invest with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that you would kind of encourage or suggest newer investors, so to speak? Obviously if they have a full-time job or something, they don't have the time to be the general partner. Mm-hmm. They might want to consider the limited partner route. But as far as someone that's open to both, would you suggest, maybe investing passively before trying to dive headfirst into it and running their own deals?
100%. And I tell everybody that who wants to jump straight into becoming a general partner. 100%. See that it works. You learn so much through the process too. You learn about, okay, what is a PPM? Read through it. What are the subscription documents? What does that process look like from reading through a pitch deck to actually wiring funds? You need to understand all of that from an investor standpoint, so that when you're on the other side, you can walk your investors through that on how to invest in either your future deals or your team's future deals. You get to see the marketing side of things too, because every month you get your update on the property. How is it performing? And you can base your marketing also on your updates. So it's an educational process even though you're still a limited partner. So I recommend that every time.
Right. And it's a lot less risky. I think, putting, you could always bet on yourself, but putting your money with someone that has that track record and knows what they're doing and, has the team behind them as well, has probably seen a lot of the problems that can come up and know how to, avoid some of those obstacles.
Right.
But eventually you did make the leap into becoming a general partner yourself. How long after your first passive investment was that?
Probably about a year and a half, year and a half.
And was this a multifamily property you guys purchased on your own?
Yep. So one more thing I'll add to whenever you're vetting a sponsor, one more thing is make sure that they're also investing in the deal, because that's another thing we look for.
Right.
Make sure that they have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And so, we were pitched all sorts of masterminds, right? So that's an easy way, and it's a valuable offer when somebody who has been doing multifamily or apartments or investing for a long time, whenever they pitch you a mastermind, and you can learn from them and learn from their mistakes, like you said. You get to shorten that time horizon and that learning curve. And so that was critical for us. We knew, especially after investing in our first deals and making the decision to become general partners, that we needed to join a mastermind and become even more educated when it comes to actually managing, running, underwriting the properties. And so we did. We joined a local mastermind in San Antonio. It's called Apartment Educators. And it's an investment. Like, it's a big investment into yourself. And it was the biggest investment I'd ever made into myself personally in terms of money. Like, it's probably my whole college tuition in four-year college tuition. But I don't regret it one bit, because it gave me all the tools, all the network that I needed to actually go in and confidently source out my own deals, build our own teams, and then, of course, bring our investor base along with us.
Yeah, and it's a lot more than just the education piece, right? You're growing this network and meeting a lot of people that can help you along the way. Did some of them in the mastermind end up becoming investors in your deals?
No, because all of us, the mastermind was to become a general partner, pretty much. So basically become your own operator. So some people are doing their own small deals, and they'll pitch it to the rest of the group, and we'll support sometimes. But for the most part, I think let's say what has happened is a teammate from the mastermind is working on a project, but they're not ready for investors yet. And so if they come across an investor, they'll send them my way or to another person's way, so that we can talk to that person who's ready to get into a deal. We could show them what we have. So that's been helpful.
Yeah, extremely valuable. So where was that first deal, and how did you guys go about raising the capital for that first one?
Yeah, so we actually partnered with the head of our mastermind. His name is Devin Elder. He's in San Antonio. He has a huge portfolio, land, apartments, industrial, but he has a lot of multifamily. And so he was the one who led the mastermind. It was his Apartment Educators is his company. And whenever he had a deal available, he didn't have to open it up to me. It was a big favor, because he has the investor base to be able to raise all the equity that he needed. But he did, and he gave us a shot at that first equity raise. And again, he has a track record, vertically integrated, invested in the deal himself. He's also just fun to work with. So we trusted him, and that's how we got into our first deal as general partners.
So that was kind of a co-GP type of situation?
Co-GP.
Yeah. Awesome. So...
and that's in San Antonio. That's over by the airport. It's called Stratton Park.
Okay. Do you guys still own that one?
We're still in that deal.
Awesome. What is your strategy when it comes to buying multifamily? Are you looking at, physical value add type deals? Are you looking at, maybe a property management value add? Or are they already stabilized properties and you're just looking to buy assets long term?
Yeah, great question. So right now, we're heavy in the value add strategy. So going in and not just from an operational standpoint, but seeing if we could improve the operations of a property, but also, adding value, beautifying it, making it better, upgrading the units so that we can increase the rents and increase the NOI. But we are picky, though, still about where because value add can mean anything. I mean,
Right.
even if you buy a Class A, you could do a value add by doing all sorts of neat tech stuff or adding cool gadgets to the property.
Yeah.
And so we focus primarily on Class B. So we don't go below that. Open to investing in Class A, we just haven't yet. But Class B is unique. And for your audience who may not know what that is, that's usually like 1990 later. 100 units or more, in a nice area. So not in a war zone, not in an opportunity zone, not, somewhere that has a high crime rate. So stabilized property. And so, yeah, we still buy nice properties, but ones that can be improved in some sense.
How are you guys underwriting these deals? I mean, going in, is it typically lower occupancy? Is it lower, rents that, you could get for the area? Is it very area specific, in terms of demographics, or, maybe price per unit? Or what's kind of the key factors you're looking at when underwriting a deal?
Yeah, so we're only in the Texas metros. Actually, we're not in Dallas yet, so I take that back. But we're in San Antonio, Houston, and we were going to be in Austin. That one fell through. But so between San Antonio and Houston, we look at, obviously, location. That's it. That's not a cliche when it comes to real estate. You want to make sure, especially with so much development, with so many people moving to Texas, and especially the metros, so properties that are not being heavily developed in the area. So like a property that is in a well-established area, there's no more room to grow in terms of competition. So we're picky about that. We're picky about the demographics. Yeah, like I said, low crime, good schools. You look at other big companies, like if you got a Starbucks nearby, it's usually a good area, because the Starbucks wouldn't put a storefront in somewhere that wasn't either growing or well established. But yeah, so we do look at it. Although a property is not reliant 100% on like the comps, that's not how value is determined, which is like, you don't look at other multifamily properties in the area and then it's like, oh, well, that must be how much yours is worth. That's not how it works. You do want to see, though, what your competition is charging in terms of rent. You do want to see what they have in terms of amenities and upgrades in the units, so that you can know, okay, this population in this area can afford this type of rent, and maybe I'm below. So yeah, you want to look for the deficit in the rents. Like, is there meat on the bone for me to be able to increase in this particular area? Jobs are really important too. You don't want to be in a particular market or submarket where it's just heavily reliant on one type of industry, like, I don't know, oil and gas, or I don't know. You probably have more examples, but just any one industry, or let's say military, like in San Antonio, because what if there's a war and all of our military personnel have to go, and then your property's vacant, So
to dig a little deeper into that, because when it comes to finding a deal, especially now, it's hard to make a lot of deals pencil. So on that very first one, how many deals did you guys look at before? You mentioned that the leader of the mastermind brought it to you guys, but were you guys also separately looking at deals? And how many did you look at, and what ultimately, I'm sure trust in him played a big factor into it, but even now, what ultimately is going to make you decide on one deal versus the other? Let's say that both of them have room for a value add, but you may be limited on capital where you're only going to buy one of them, right? So what's ultimately going to make that deciding factor?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, it really just comes down to the operator then at that point. If everything else is equal in terms of the property, I think now more than ever, it's really important to know your operator well, know their track record, Get your hands on their underwriting also, so that you can not only underwrite it yourself, but I also have a consultant on my team who I also pitch the underwriting to. And that's all he does all day with a brokerage. And I'll ask him, hey, can you take a look at this for me? Make sure I didn't miss anything. What are your thoughts? He also has access to CoStar, which I don't. So he can pull the CoStar report and we can analyze it together. So I think it just, for me, it comes down to the operator. So us coming in as GPs, because we're not our own, we haven't actually gone solo yet and purchased our own property. All of our deals have been through a general partnership. And so we've made a network of sponsors who happen to be some of the best in Texas that meet all the criteria I mentioned before. And we've built relationships with them, and they're actively looking, actively underwriting, actively buying. So when they have something, they call us first, and they'll call us and say, hey, we have something. I'll tell you what we're working on, and they'll send me all of the information, all of the underwriting, and then we'll do our own due diligence as Covenant Capital to see if we want to partner on the deal or not.
Are most of these properties self-managed, or you guys have third-party property managers on them?
Vertically integrated. So we only partner with operators who are vertically integrated. So they have their own property management team under the umbrella of the company. I mean, it's so important because I'm not knocking third-party property management, but it's a different vibe if you work for the same company and you're working towards the same goal, and you are incentivized to accomplish that particular goal, which is stabilize or make the property perform better, so everybody could get a higher payout. Like, everybody's interests are aligned whenever you have a property management team under your equity firm.
Right. And are you guys, you mentioned that a lot of them are actively looking at deals. Do you have any certain goals or milestones that you guys are looking to hit maybe within the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, good question. So the biggest thing for me this year, I wanted to get into at least 3 deals. And so we just closed on the 4th one on this past Monday as general partners. So that goal for me for 2024 has been met. Going into next year, we definitely want to either hit that again or exceed it. I mean, we're just trying to grow, but we want to grow smart. So I don't want to say I want to be up to, 1,000 units by next year. It's like whatever makes sense, whatever deal makes sense, whatever makes sense for our investors. I am on a conquest, though, to build our investor base. So we've been heavily networking and heavily working with people through LinkedIn, and just trying to, especially, we found a niche with business owners. So business owners have a unique set of challenges that we like to have those discussions about. So we are actively growing our investor base. So if there's a performance indicator that I'm looking at in terms of our company, it's growing our investor base to at least, 500, 600 by the end of next year.
So, raising capital is, one of the hardest parts of the business, I would say. When it comes to, you mentioned business owners, when it comes to pitching someone, give us your pitch or maybe some insight on how you're looking, because a lot of them do have some extra capital laying around, and maybe they look at the traditional methods of the stock market or their retirement accounts or whatever it may be. But when it comes to real estate, what's some key indicators that you can kind of throw at them that may sway them your way?
Yeah, so it's a conversation that we have with them about, okay, you're clearly highly successful, Leo. You built this wonderful business. Let me ask you, whenever you have a profitable year or a profitable quarter, how much of that profit do you save towards your future, and how much of it do you pour back into your business? And oftentimes the answer that I get is, well, we pour it back into our business always. And
Right.
so that's the challenge, I think, with so many of our entrepreneurs is that they want to, they're on like growth mode. Like, let me grow this business, grow this company, make it more profitable. But then with those extra profits, there's a statistic out there that says 70 to 90% of a business owner's net worth is tied up in their actual company, 70 to 90%. And so that's heavily reliant on their own performance. It's heavily reliant on the market, depending on what type of business you're in. And so, I think it's really just having that conversation with the business owner and having them, like, asking them, kind of having that come to Jesus moment, like, what are you going to do? What's your strategy here for when you get older? Are you going to sell the business? Like, what if you wanted to leave it to your kids? Then what are you going to do if you don't have any extra, like, retirement savings put aside? And what we're also finding is that, business owners they're great with money. They know how to look at and compile a profit and loss statement. But when it comes to, like, stocks, they're either suspicious or they would rather just have their money in excess liquidity. So they are, like you said, they're sitting on cash. A lot of times they're very cash heavy. And, you ask the question, okay, well, what about inflation? Like, you told me you're worried about inflation when it comes to your business profits. Are you worried about inflation eroding all of this capital that you have sitting in the bank account? And that opens up another discussion. So it really just depends on, because real estate investing isn't for everybody. And I'm not going to ever pitch it to a business owner like, oh, you need to do this. It's only if it makes sense. So if you have, like, if this particular individual is sitting on a lot of cash and they know that it's being eaten away at inflation, but they don't want to put it in the stock market because they see it as too risky, then I'll simply walk them through the benefits of apartments and why we feel like we found a gold mine when it comes to investing in apartments and how it's changed our financial trajectory. And so I'll go through cash flow. Okay, is that even something you're looking for? Are you looking for cash flow or just somewhere to park your money that you get an equity payout at the end? Like, how long are you looking to have it sit somewhere? Because we hold for 3 to 5 years. Is that too long? Is that good? Is that too short? Are you comfortable? Like, are you looking for tax incentives when it comes to the money that you're looking to invest? Because there's tax benefits whenever you invest with commercial real estate. So it's more of a conversation, and it's not for everybody, but it definitely gets a lot of business owners thinking, and that's actually a lot of our investor base is business owners, high net worth executives.
Yeah, ultimately, it comes down to diversification, and like you said, not putting all of their eggs in one basket. Depending on what stage of business you're in, of course, you want to reinvest as much of the profit as you can.
Right.
But at a certain point, you should look outside of that as well. Mm-hmm. Have you guys had any success targeting, doctors, lawyers, other high income W-2 earners, or has the strategy been mainly focused on business owners?
Yeah, so being in pharma, I have a pretty broad network of doctors and pharmacists, and so yeah, we've had those conversations before. And we have a handful of physicians, but the ones that seem to be pulling the plug, though, are the ones who actually own the practice. Again, so they're still business owners, but they're physicians who actually own their practice. They don't work under a hospital system or with a network or anything like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I know your faith, knowing your faith, it plays a big part in your business. Mm-hmm. What principles or what have you taken away from your faith that you try to implement into your business as much as you can?
That's such a beautiful question, Leo. I really appreciate you asking me that, because it's foundational. Whenever my husband Christopher and I even looked at exploring this business, starting it, bringing other people along, we knew that we needed to dig into God's word from the get-go. Okay, what does God say? Because there's wisdom in the Bible when it comes to everything, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to raising your kids, when it comes to business. There's actually a lot of wisdom in there about money and business ownership. And whenever you read the Bible, you see, like, God created us to be creative. That's why so many of us feel unfulfilled in a job that we're told to do, because it sucks the creativity out of us. And so we wanted to name our company Covenant Capital, because a covenant is, it's not like a covenant like in legal terms, like, okay, this is what you do for me, this is what I'm going to give you. This is like the biblical definition of covenant, which this is I am going to deliver on this promise to you no matter what. So I'm going to do right by my investors. I'm going to do right by my employees. I'm going to do right by the residents that live at the properties that we buy. And so we look at those biblical principles, and that just drives everything that we do, every aspect. Prayer is a big part of mine and my husband's. Every time we make a decision or we want to make a decision, we're nimble because we're small, but we do take our time, because we don't want to make the costly mistakes. We want to be wise, not only because it's not only our money anymore. We're not just stewarding our money that God's given us. We're stewarding other people's money. Mm-hmm. And so it's a lot of prayer. It's seeking wise counsel. It's working with other faith-based operators, organizations that have the same values as us. And it's also a big part of it is, our investor base. Like, you don't have to be Christian to invest with us, but you do have to have that set of values, because we're picky about who we let. It's like a club to us. Like, this isn't just, you're just not on our Excel spreadsheet. We don't just have your PPM collecting dust somewhere. Like, this is a network. This is a family that we are bringing you into as the Covenant Capital Investor Club. And we know your birthdays, we know where you live, we know your kids. Like, this is a very, very intimate kind of ecosystem that we're creating. I mean, which is a community. That's a biblical principle as well.
Where does that stem from? Did you guys both grow up, very heavily around the church, or is that something that happened more recently in your adult life?
Mm-hmm. So I'm a cradle Catholic, born and raised, still am. So my husband is, I don't think he would give himself any particular denomination, but he is a Christian. But to be honest with you, it was about 2 years ago that we started really digging into God's Word and really starting reading the Bible together. That had never happened before until 2 years ago. And there is just, I don't know, we always ask each other, like, why didn't we do this sooner? This is amazing. This book it's like God left us his, this how-to manual for how to live your life, and not just live it, but be abundant and be prosperous and make the biggest impact while you're here, because ultimately our goal is to bring his kingdom to earth. And so how do you do that? Well, you can't do that. I'm going to just be really blunt here. You can't do that by being poor. It's going to be very difficult to do that and make an impact and help others if you are not, if you're not living at your highest tier of capability. And so, I guess to answer your question, I think we've had a drip of Christianity like our whole life. And then about 2 years ago, we actually got serious.
And you're a very, very good example of someone that can just, make that transition. I know you still have your W-2 job, but someone that can make that transition from that into a real estate investor and start generating some of that passive income. Starting out 2 to 3 years ago and where you guys are at now is incredible. Mm. What advice would you give to someone looking at doing something similar currently?
Yeah, if you're not reading, start reading. Start reading everything that you can. Start listening to any podcast that you can when it comes to doing the thing that you want to do. If it's getting into real estate as a passive investor, if it's making the jump from passive investor to general partner, just start studying. Like, books, it's amazing to me. Like, there's so much free education out there that's just at our fingertips. So find a mentor as well. These are my exact steps. We studied, we found a mentor by joining the mastermind. We immersed ourselves in that community, and then we just took action. It's always gonna feel uncomfortable because you've never done it before. So it's very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sure like with you, Leo, you're a business owner. Like you started Capital Acts and you've grown a team, it's probably a stretch forever. Once you make that decision, you're always going to be uncomfortable because you're like, crap, I've never done this before. Hope this is the right decision. But just try and educate yourself the best as you can and seek wise counsel.
Yeah. And it's never really going to be a good time to do something, you just kind of got to go for it and figure it out and just run with the punches. So is there any particular advice you would give yourself, let's say 10 years ago? Would you have started investing in real estate even earlier in your career?
Yeah, of course. Income producing assets. I wish somebody would have told me about that. A lot of people don't know that the apartment complex that they drive by on their way to work every day, that's not, it might be owned by an institution, but the majority of time it's just owned by people like you and me that pulled their money together and bought this big old place, and everybody participates in the cash flow and the equity and the tax benefits, and it's there for the taking. You just have to be able to find the right deal. And so, I definitely would have started investing in real estate sooner. I probably wouldn't have gone to college, to be honest with you. I probably would have just studied business from free resources. I think college was a waste of time for me. I would have started reading earlier, as soon as I could. That's another thing too. I rediscovered my love for reading only like within the last 5 years. And again, it's like it opens your mind to so much out there and concepts, and you get to learn from some of the most successful people in the world through the pages of these books, even though they're, dead, or there's no way you could ever get an appointment with them. So it's just another great way to seek wisdom. So I would have investing earlier and not gone to college.
Well, I very much agree with you on the college. Texas Tech obviously was a great school, but we're living in a different time where everything is, so much information is available at our fingertips, right? Anything you want to learn. For me, everything I've learned about business has been online and through the internet. And of course through relationships and clients and others that have mentored me along the way. But, college isn't as important as it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, where, it was setting you up with a job, and, the internet wasn't around to teach you everything you need to know. I know as of recently, you've been putting a lot of emphasis on your personal brand and wanting to grow that. What does that stem from? What's the importance of that, and why are you putting so much effort into it?
Yeah, good question. So, specifically LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, and if your viewers aren't on LinkedIn, they need to be, because there are so many amazing contacts out there through that platform, and they're serious contacts, and they're not on there for drama. They're not on there to post pictures of, their soccer game, or, they are there to seek out wisdom and to share. It's a very sharing community. So I love LinkedIn. But building my personal brand, there's a lot of people out there that don't know me personally. And so where are they going to go to hear my voice, to see what I'm about, to see what my values are, to see what I'm working on? And so LinkedIn is a beautiful platform. We're now on, I resisted, but we're now on Instagram and Facebook as well. But it's just a great place to meet people, to network, it's virtual networking. And whenever it comes to creating content, every time I go to create, I don't use AI. Okay, not to say that I won't ever, because it's pretty amazing. But I never use AI. I write everything, and it's always from the standpoint of the reader. Like, okay, what would I want to learn about today? Like, when I first started off, what were some of my burning questions? And so that's another benefit of going back and reading, because I could go back into the first books that I was reading about real estate and look at my highlights, look at my tabs, what was important to me, what was an aha moment. And then I could expand on that now, being a little bit older, a little bit wiser, having more experience. And so it's really important. It's a great educational platform, and it's a great way for people to really get to know you and for you to be your authentic self.
Yeah, LinkedIn has been great for myself and my company as well. I think, the personal brand is super important nowadays. It's, that's why I started this podcast. Also to give a platform to, everyone in my network and all my clients and stuff to amplify that and spread a positive message. I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship in whatever form, whether it's real estate or, some sort of other business. So yeah. Is there any final kind of, thoughts you would like to leave with our audience, or anything that you would like to promote?
Yeah, no. So we currently wrapped up our most recent deal. We're always looking. If you or your audience are ever interested in learning more about Covenant Capital, we have a website. It's covenantcapitaltx.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well, Annette Hemmert. So I post a lot of content on there, not just about commercial real estate investing, but also just mindset in general, and having that wealth mindset, because I feel like, again, when it comes to either the educational system or our upbringing, like, so many of us have lids on what we think our potential is, and it's not true. It's not true. You have infinite potential, and you should be aware of that, and you have your own kind of genius, and you should be aware of that too. And I'm just really grateful to be here with you, Leo. I appreciate the invitation. This was fun. Your whiskey's delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody listening, I'll have her information, her website in the description, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.